morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Instituto de Salud Carlos III. As you know, this is the national reference institution of public health and biomedical research in Spain. For us, it is a real pleasure to host this first symposium of research infrastructures organized by Reach Europe project. In this sense, let me start expressing my gratitude to the speakers, moderators, and organizers whose dedication and passion have made this symposium possible, as well as all participants, including the ones who are following us online. Thank you very much. Welcome to your home. My institute is your home now. Let me also welcome the Spanish authorities who will be with us during the symposium. Dear Eva Ortega, who will be in the closing session, and the General Secretariat of Research, Ministry of Science, Innovation and Universities, Patricia Postigo, Policy Officer of the European Commission, and José Luis Martínez, Chair of the European Scientific Forum on Research Infrastructures, ESFRI. As you may probably know, the Instituto de Salud Carlos III has a twofold functional dependency. Regarding research and its relation to the national health system, we depend on the Spanish Ministry of Science, Innovation and Universities. Here will be represented by Eva Ortega. In addition, regarding our role within the national health system and the activities related to health monitoring, planning and care, our institute depends on the Ministry of Health. Thus, we are the intersection point between science and health, acting as a bridge. Our mission is to improve the health of all citizens through science and the generation of knowledge, and with this goal in mind, the Instituto de Salud Carlos III develops and funds biomedical and clinical research in our country. We are here today to share knowledge and to further advance in European research infrastructures. As you all know, these infrastructures are large facilities that offer resources and services to the scientific community in order to conduct cutting-edge research of the highest quality. They promote the transmission, exchange, and preservation of knowledge, technology transfer, and innovation. And this goal is fully aligned with Spain's objective as a country that wants to grow through the generation of scientific knowledge. Given their technological complexity, research infrastructures are unique and exceptional in their kind and require a very high investment, considering also their maintenance and operational costs. We do believe that research infrastructures can only be addressed in a framework of international collaboration. Our institute is highly committed to fostering and expanding the participation of a Spanish health research ecosystem in the pan-European biomedical infrastructures. And for this reason, we participate in the governance bodies of 7 out of the 12 European research infrastructures, including in the health domain in the ESFRI roadmap. Our institute has a long tradition participating in EATRIS, ECRIN, ELIXIR, EU Open Screen, and in many of which our institute itself has platforms funded at the national level that act as a mirror of the Spanish node. Our institute also has recently joined, in the past 2 years, 2 other European research infrastructures that we consider critical and part of our duties, the BBMRI and ERINA. And the most recent incorporation in 2023 is Eurobioimaging, the European research infrastructure for imaging technologies in biomedical and biomedicine science. Finally, Instituto de Salud Carlos III is also involved in the national node of eBrains, the European brain research infrastructure of the data, computing and digital domain, acting as the coordinating entity of the Spanish health research institutes. Our main role in this regard is to promote the participation of the Spanish research community in these RIs, developing national nodes for each of them and ensuring the alignment of the national platforms integrated in the national nodes with the European and international research infrastructures. It is our duty, therefore, to make researchers aware of these infrastructures so that they can participate and take full advantage of them, fostering Spanish science in the European framework. For all these reasons, our institute has become a reference hub of biomedical research infrastructures in Spain. We are here today to celebrate the first symposium of Reach Europe project, which is holding today this meeting. And as you know, this project is a network formed by Research Infrastructure's national contact points of Horizon Europe. Our institute participates in this project as beneficiary, as it holds one of the 3 Spanish national contact points for research infrastructures. Our institute is also the leader of the work package focused on the tools and services for stakeholders, which explains why we are hosting this meeting. The aim here is to provide a comprehensive view of the potential opportunities offered by Horizon Europe, the implementation of the open science policy, and other priorities of the European research area. Furthermore, it aims to facilitate dialogue among research infrastructures stakeholders at international level. The symposium has been structured in 3 sessions. The first one will focus on how research infrastructures can benefit from the European Open Science Cloud in the implementation of the open science. The second one will give an insight into research infrastructure projects, showcasing some of the open science practices they are implementing and sharing some lessons learned. And the last session will show the potential of the research infrastructures in making the European research area a reality, and will give an overview of relevant research infrastructure projects involved in the implementation of the European research area. I am sure our deliberation and discussion will be fruitful and enlightening. Working together, our shared vision for the future of European research infrastructures will inspire us all for further developments. Welcome here, welcome to Spain, and enjoy the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Just let me introduce myself. I am Daniele Gizzi. I'm the coordinator of Reach Europe project, the project in the framework of which this symposium has been organized. It's a pleasure to be here in this historical organization. It's a very pleasure to be here in presence with so many participants, and I hope that the service that Reach Europe is providing today is something that can really help the research infrastructure community, not only the Spanish one, but the European research infrastructure community, to create a space of debate, discussion, and exchange of good practices. Just let me move to the screen so I can introduce also other services that Reach Europe provides both for stakeholders and national contact point. So I move there. Okay. Briefly, the Reach Europe is a project financed by Horizon Europe, and last 7 years, so cover all the duration of the Horizon Europe program. And the overall aim of our project are 2, actually, objectives of our project. The first one is support the national contact point in research infrastructure to increase their knowledge, knowledge about the Horizon Europe guidelines, but also the European stakeholders to interact each other, and providing a high-level support to the clients that ask to the national contact point questions, or maybe they are looking for partner or something else. This is the first objective of the Reach Europe. The second one is related to the stakeholders, so the people that are not national contact points, but maybe they are interested in the research infrastructure work program of Horizon Europe. This is the general overview of all the national contact point project, because each, Horizon Europe, the research innovation program of European Commission, has several strengths, several, if we can say, sub-program, it's not properly the name, the correct name, and each of these strengths has our thematic strengths, of course, and each of that has is national contact point project network. Our is the Reach Europe, you see in the second one, this one. What we do for the national contact point, I know that here in this room there are several research infrastructure national contact point because this symposium is also for them. We try to give advice, support, and increase the knowledge on the guidance in Horizon Europe program topics. We organize training, assistant, we distribute and we prepare as well documentation for the national contact point, and then we organize European Info Days and Symposium that you see is a service with different target, not only for NCPs but also for the stakeholders. At the moment, the Reach Europe family, because how I like to say is we are a family, a group of friends that work together, are more than 60 NCPs from 40 countries, are involved in a different level in Reach Europe network. And then now we are presenting the services for the stakeholders, for the persons that are not NCPs. First of all, we promote the transnational and virtual access opportunity financed in the framework of Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. In our website, you can find a monthly update database where are reported all the transnational virtual access open with the link, relevant link and information that maybe the researchers can explore, and then they can find an opportunity to move to do their research abroad in the premises of a research infrastructure. Then we try to support also, there is some specific task to support the widening countries, so the countries that don't have a so high level of participation in research infrastructure work program. We organized the International Proposal Check Workshop, so a moment in which we organized the last one in February, just before the calls deadline, during which the selected proposer can bring their proposal, their project, to be evaluated informally, if we can say evaluated, from evaluators. Then we organize a webinar on some specific topic, European information event, research infrastructure symposium. Of course, this is the first one, and I can say is the biggest event that we have in our project, and then networking opportunities. Last but not the least, all the services that we provide to the stakeholders are free of charge, so there is no any fee for access to International Proposal Check Workshop or networking event or other activities that we organize. This is the overview of our website. You see there is a double section, service for NCPs, that maybe if you are not NCPs is not so relevant, but for sure is relevant to the services for stakeholders. The contact, then in case you have any doubts or questions, you can always write us. This is the symposium, of course, and then it's a wonderful Madrid. And this is the section of the transnational virtual access that I mentioned before, where you can find, the researchers can find the open call to travel and to do their research in the premises of a research infrastructure. This is the proposal check event workshop organized in February. These are the services for NCPs that I already introduced, some picture of the training for the NCPs, and then the networking. We stress on the fact that the symposium, the first symposium should take place in presence, because what is important is we know that we have also several events online. Maybe it's easier participate, you don't have to travel, we don't have to spend money, but what we think was very, very important, even in this occasion, is have some moment to interact in person, to talk each other, to, you know, put away for one day the screen of a laptop that we use currently to interact each other. This is all from my side. I hope that you enjoy the day, and thank you very much again to be here. Thank you. One minute more. I'm happy to introduce now Patricia Postigo from the European Commission. She has been a policy officer since 2004. She also representative, she has a long experience in the research infrastructure landscape, and she is responsible for the relation with CERN. Everything is correct, so I invite you, the floor is yours.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I had a close-up experience of the traffic in Madrid this morning. So now I know that what my friends tell me is not an exaggeration. I underestimated terribly what it takes to get from A to B in rush hour. Now I learned my lesson. I am going to start withholding my personal information because now you all know how old I am. I am a dinosaur of the Director General for Research and Innovation in Brussels. I'm there indeed since 2004. We call ourselves dinosaurs because we think we have been there for too long. I was hoping people wouldn't see that in my face, but now since the information is out there, let's just put it out in the open. I am working in the Research Infrastructures Program since 2016, which makes me quite old in the program because you all work, most of you, for national administrations, and you know that the turnover in national administrations in the last decade has been getting higher and higher. I have been the project officer for the network REACH in the past. I don't remember exactly when, because we have been reorganized several times, but I mean, I'm looking at some of the faces of the network from when I was the project officer, and I cannot find anybody. I don't know if that's my glasses, which are old, I need new ones, or bad memory, but hey, hello, thank you. I was going to say, please raise your hands, those who know me from that period, because I mean, I cannot see you from here. Aha, Christoph, hi. So it's a pleasure to see some of the known faces and also to get to know the new members of the network. Precisely the value of such a network is to ensure there is a stable platform to convey information to researchers in spite of the turnover in every organization, and also to provide feedback to us, people in the European Commission side who shape the work program from your experience with the users. So on the face of all this administrative upheaval and change, our respective roles are to ensure that there are two stable groups that can talk to each other and convey information to each other from our respective sides of the game. I am guessing that most of you, the topic of my talk was the contribution of research infrastructures, including EOSC, to the European research area. And I'm sure that a lot of you, I can see a few faces here in the first row and further behind, can make this presentation as well as I can, or even better. But since I'm wearing the European Commission hat, and I've been here for quite long, I'm going to have a try. I wanted to start with the concept of the European research area because it's very old, and I'm sure most of you know more or less what it means, but I think that more than 20 years down the road, it's fair to have a little bit of a reflection of what it should mean today, and perhaps afterwards over coffee, since I missed the morning coffee because I was in my taxi having a heart attack. Perhaps we can have a little discussion of what you think it means for you, or what it should mean in the next framework program that we are now collectively shaping. So you will remember, those of you as old as I am, that when, although research collaboration, scientific collaboration was very much in the origins of the European project. Those of you who are physicists will remember that CERN was created just 1 year before the Treaty of Rome was signed. So in the origins of the new European project after the Second World War, I mean, CERN was originally expected to be part of the European project, and then it was left outside. But the European project, in the origins of it, there's Euratom, which was granted mostly an industrial production program, but which had its research collaboration chapter. So research collaboration was in the very origins of what is now the European Union, although for years it was restricted to Euratom, and broader scientific collaboration was left for parallel intergovernmental processes. So CERN was conceived as a parallel intergovernmental association, and so was the European Molecular Biology Laboratory. So all these broad European in scope scientific collaborations were being set up as separate organizations from the European community, which went on to become the European Union. And it was only with a single European Act, I think it entered into force in 1987, that the European project gave itself the prerogative to work jointly on science policy. And some of you will remember the first framework program, I think that was the year 83 or 84. Already in the second framework program, there was work on transnational access. So let me pedal back from all this lot of ideas in my introduction. So ERA was launched, the European Research Area IDEA was launched. Very simply, it's applying the European logic to how we do science. So just as much as the single market was trying to create a single space for companies to thrive, the European Research Area was conceived as a European single market for science. And therefore, the analogies with the single market were used at the time. So the freedom of goods, people, and services, the freedom of movement inside the European Union space should be applied to science, and that would be the freedom of movement for knowledge, for scientists, and for scientific tools, and that would be research infrastructures. And I see that here, I've included EOSC in that. So it was a little bit the single market logic applied to science. This is a very old slide. I don't even remember where I took it from, but here you can see how it started. If you see the first square, the orange square in the center, you see how in trying to create this single space for science in Europe, I mean, the first initiatives are things that you are no doubt very familiar with, like the European Charter for Researchers, the Code of Conduct for Recruitment of Researchers. So all these are policy initiatives trying to have a direct impact on how we do science in Europe, trying to ensure that there's European science and that researchers can move in this space without losing out opportunities, career projection, or pension rights. Very important. As I grow older, I realize that pension rights are more and more important. So if we look back at what we've been trying to build over the past 24 years, what are the successes and what are the points for improvement? So I have here two lists, which are our official talking points. And we all know that the European Union produces approximately 20% of peer-reviewed publications. It's approximately 18% of global investment in R&D. We have some figures that show that the proportional number of researchers has grown in the EU in the last 4 years, and the percentage of high-skilled jobs in our collective economies has improved. So we have some positive news, but we all know that investment in R&D is growing in the US and in China so much faster than here. We know that now there's a global competitive landscape taking shape which pits the US against China, not against Europe. We know we are not the front runners in this race. There is so much in this context that we cannot control, not only from the scientific policy community, but in general. There are political forces taking shape. We all understand that the world is changing now, and we are all worried that it's not for the better. So there is a new political and social context. There was first Brexit, then the pandemic, the climate and digital transitions, which seem to be the priority, and then just the explosion of war. So there's a new political environment that will shape the role of science in the next 10 years. And it's probably not very good for science, although Macron last week called for doubling investment in R&D. I mean, I was impressed at his very courageous request, but I was wondering whether he was thinking the investment should go to R&D for defense. So this is something that's going to have a huge impact in how we shape science policy in the next 10 years, in spite of our official talking points of what we've done right and what we still have to do. But then going back at how research infrastructures emerged as one of the priorities in European science policy, well, you will remember that I just said that there was CERN and there was the EMBL taking shape as European collaborations outside the European project. So when the European Union gave itself the power to do science policy, the first thing was to look at these big research installations that were operating outside the EU realm. Okay, how are we going to get this inside the European Union umbrella, and how are we going to apply the European logic of coordination to big scientific installations? Because, of course, big science installations were at the origin of the research infrastructures idea and the research infrastructures program, which now extends from big research scientific installations to broader collaborations. So, I mean, the logic was first to pool resources to achieve critical mass. This is the logic of European countries being too small to compete in the global scene, coming together. This is the same with scientific installations. Scientific installations were becoming more and more expensive, not only in terms of construction, but more difficult also in terms of gathering the required expertise, which was becoming more and more rare. So pooling resources would allow small European countries to build the scientific installations of the future. Then, I mean, it was about access as well, because not every European country could have every type of scientific installation. It only made sense to pool resources and then share the access to the scientific instruments. And then it was about also using these installations as hubs to connect national communities and vertebrate the European scientific space. And of course, it was expected this would boost competitiveness and this would evolve into more interoperable resources, building up capacity and also skills. So how have research infrastructures contributed to the European research era in the last 24 years? I would suggest you say now what you think their contribution has been. I think their contribution is very clear to research infrastructure users, because I do believe that the creation of transnational access programs by the European Commission has really transformed the way an individual scientist within the boundaries of a national science system can imagine his or her career and can do science. I had this colleague who recently retired, Lorenza Saracco. I don't know if some of you remember her, but she was like the creator of these very complicated reporting tables on unit access costs. But she was a very nice person. And she was always talking about the TNA generation, or Erasmus for research infrastructure users. And I do think this is one of our little programs that has really transformed a part of science in Europe in a very significant way. Only that probably the users of big scientific installations are a small part of our scientific communities, are no doubt a small percentage of our societies. Not everybody in European society knows what this is or what's happening, but I do believe we've had a very, very valuable impact. So it is true that opening up the access to services and at the moment opening the access to data and ensuring this data are fair in the future and ensuring that, or trying to ensure that in the future they're going to be more accessible and easier to share, that's going to maintain the pace of transformation. I also believe that research infrastructures have been crucial in integrating some national communities. This is very obvious, for example, in the case of physics installations, which have always been very internationalized precisely because they all had to use one same instrument located in one particular place. So they all had to travel there and to meet and to exchange the data. And that forced them to work internationally. If we now look at some of the ERICs, the distributed infrastructures, I mean, we can see how this is happening as well in other areas of science. So yes, I do believe that research infrastructures have been important players in vertebrating national communities across Europe. There are, of course, linkages with education and training, linkages, albeit small, and we should work on making them stronger, with industrial research, and they are hubs for international scientific collaboration. So research infrastructures are catalysts or drivers for each decade science policy mantras. So now we're very focused on open science, and I'm looking at the EOSC speaker here in the first row. So now we're very focused on building EOSC and on working on open science and mainstreaming that in our national scientific systems. And research infrastructures play a crucial role in that. So yeah, research infrastructures are catalysts for the principles that drive science policy through time. So, I mean, where are we? So what have we achieved with the research infrastructure program in the last 20, 25 years? We have created this TNA generation. We have opened up services and access in some way because we're still doing it through projects. So projects that have a duration and then come to an end, and then there might be a gap period. The transparency of what is on offer and for whom is not perfect. Perhaps we can improve that. We have built a lot of infrastructures. ESFRI, the ESFRI roadmap has been an incubator for new initiatives. So now we have 41 ESFRI landmarks. So that's research infrastructures that are already providing services. And we have 22 projects. So have we gone too far? Have we reached saturation? How are we going to go about between the balance in fostering new ideas and avoiding the negative effect of creating fragmentation, which is the opposite of what we wanted to achieve in the first place. So if each sub-community can become its own research infrastructure, then are we splitting communities and sub-communities because there's a perverse logic to how we're doing things. So I think time is ripe. We're 25 years down the road to stop and think, we have achieved some things that are significant, and now what is it that we want to keep, and how do we want to move forward? And how do we want to make sure that all these pan-European collaborations that we're building involve the national communities, the national labs, big and small, beyond the alignment of methodologies and priorities. But this is the content of my closing presentation, right? What we want to do next. And I have no presentation for the end of the day. I hope to collect some ideas of the presentations you're going to make that I'm very much looking forward to. And then over the breaks, and I hope to incorporate that in my my presentation to you at the end of today of some ideas of where we could go next. But in order to do this properly, we will need your feedback and your committed engagement. So that's all from me at this point. Thank you very much. What's next?
Okay, so good morning. Let's start with this first session, which is titled How Research Infrastructure Can Benefit from EOSC in the Implementation of Open Science. So we have our 4 panelists that will give a presentation of about 12 minutes, and then we will have a panel. So I suggest that we have the questions after all the presentations. So please take note of them and we can get it there. So let's start first with a talk from Immaculada Figueroa on the EOSC governance, structure, strategy, and evolution. Okay. So Immaculada Figueroa is Vice Director General for Internationalization of Science and Innovation, General Secretary for Research, and the EOSC Steering Board member for Spain. So she's the Deputy General, Director General for this area since 2021, strongly engaged, as we all know from Spain, in the definition of research infrastructure delegate of ESFRI, but has been in the Executive Board for 3 terms and Vice Chairpersons in 2 consecutive mandates. She's also representative in the Strategic and Research Infrastructure configurations of the Program Committee for Horizon Europe, in ERIC, delegate of the EOSC Steering Board, which is one of the tripartite components of EOSC, as she will present, the Euro HPC Joint Undertaking Governing Board, the ERA Forum, and also the European Union and Latin American Research Infrastructure Working Group. She also represents the Ministry of Science and Innovation and universities in many governing bodies of international organizations and large research infrastructure. So without no delay, I will pass the floor to Immaculada, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be here, to the organizer. It is a pleasure to be here with you today. In this context, what we are going to discuss, this long presentation, is going to be reduced today to the discussion about the governance of EOSC, with the intention to put in context what we are going to discuss during this roundtable. The first of my presentation is just to put in context what is EOSC and what is the vision of EOSC. I think EOSC is clear, is the European Web of Fair Data and Related Services for Research, with the intention that we have the possibility to easily find, access, and interoperate and reuse the data that are produced in the work that you are doing for research. And also with the intention that making this data available within the European research community in order to create new or product new science. The purpose and why we want to the EOSC is because we want to unlock the full potential of the research data to accelerate discoveries and innovation in Europe. It is a mandate. It is a mandate from the President of the European Commission during her mandate, and it is the purpose why we want to build the EOSC and how we want to build it, ensuring that first the open science practices and the skills are rewarded in order to accelerate and to become all the application of the open science practices a reality and a common approach in the production of science. We pretend with EOSC to enable the definition of standards and the development of tools and services to allow researchers to find, to access, to reuse, and to combine the results of the production of research, the research that we are doing in Europe. And we have also to establish a sustainable, that is very important, sustainable and federated infrastructure enabling open sharing of these scientific results. The governance of this EOSC that we are trying to build together, it is made of 3 main pillars. One is the European Commission through the two DGs, the RTD and the DG Connect, that are one of the main building blocks of this governance. The other is the IOSC Association. The IOSC Association is the representation of the community behind IOSC. And then the third one is the IOSC Steering Board that is composed by the representative of the governments, of the different ministries that are competent in all the domains related with research infrastructures, with research, and with open science and data. The European Commission and the IOSC Association build a co-program partnership, and they are working together in the frame of this co-program partnership, and they establish a direct link with the tripartite with the IOSC Steering Board in order to determine the actions and the strategies that we want to develop. How IOSC is implemented during this period? Taking into account the work of the three bodies of this governance, the European Commission, the IOSC Association, and the IOSC Steering Board, say there is an identification of what are the strategic implementation priorities for IOSC. In this sense, it is produced the strategy research and innovation agenda that is implemented through multi-annual roadmaps that are in which we gather what are the activities that we are going to develop in order to address the strategic lines that we have included in the SRIA. And how it is finally implemented through the program Horizon Europe now, the work program of the European Union. In the past, through the Age 2020 work program. And how? Mainly through EC, through European Commission funded projects, and currently also through the IOSC procurement that has been launched for the implementation of IOSC. There is an in-kind contribution also coming from the different, for the other two pillars, from the IOSC Association, members of the IOSC Association. They are participating and building also this IOSC through the in-kind contribution, and of course through the contribution that we are putting from the ministries in order to build IOSC. A big part of the construction of IOSC is based on the development that we are doing at national level, and this is something that we are also taking into consideration for this federation of IOSC that we are going to build. In the case of just a summary of who is who in Spain. In Spain, in the IOSC Steering Board, I am there in the Steering Board, but also Pilar Rico, that will chair the next session. In the association, we are one country with a big participation of institutions like members and observers, 15 members and 16 observers. We have one of the directors, elected directors in the board of directors, that is Nacho Blanquer. And we have a mandated organization that is the Research Council, the Spanish Research Council, CSIC, and Álvaro is here because he is representing the mandated organization. We have a number of experts that are participating in the different task forces of IOSC. IOSC Steering Board is organized in different groups. We have the Steering Board Committee, that it is the group composed by the Commission, the chair of the Steering Board, and the representative of the trios of presidencies that are the ones that organize the meetings of the Steering Board. We have the working group that is dealing with the IOSC policy working group that is dealing with all the aspects related with the strategic and programmatic aspects that we are going to face in order to build IOSC. One of the main issues in which they are now working is in the definition of the future framework for IOSC post-27. Once we finish the Horizon Europe, how we imagine or how we think that IOSC needs to be built. Then there is a group that is related with the national contribution to the European Open Science Cloud. That is very important because it's the group that it is trying to converge with all the things that we are developing at national level and how they are going to be elements for the construction of EOS. And there is a group that was established in order to develop the potential of the research infrastructure as a main element in the construction of EOS, that is the S3 EOS task force that is dealing with the coordination between research infrastructure and EOS. And here we have the chair of the task force, or one of the chair of the task force, Jan Husak, sitting in the audience. In relation to the activities in which we are involved now, it's still involved activities, but it's tripartite activities because all of us are involved on that. We are working in the future model of EOS beyond 27 for the next framework program 10. We are, of course, working in this, in how we can develop this EOS, taking into account the value of the research infrastructure and all the work that we have at national level and a European level, coming from the history we have in developing the environment of research infrastructure in Europe. We are working also in the relation of EOS, that is a data space, with the rest of the data spaces that are also in other thematic areas. And of course, we are trying to work also with the monitoring of EOS in order to show to the general public, to us, but the general public, to the ministries, to everyone, what we are doing and how we are developing this EOS through work at national level. For the future post-2027, we have this helicopter view that is try to identify what are the tasks that are expected to be built in order to construct the EOS. And I think that it's important to take this into consideration because depending on how we are going to implement these different tasks, the system or the organization or the governance of the next or the EOS post-2027 needs to be built. And we have to take this into consideration to choose the best option for this EOS post-2027. In relation with the position of the research infrastructure in EOS, I think it is, as I mentioned, is a key role. It is considered that the research infrastructure are the main actors in the building of EOS. They are producing science, they are producing data, the data that they are producing is quality data, and they are a main building to prove that EOS is a reality and to explode the possibilities of the research infrastructures. As you see here, we have more than 20 research infrastructures or landmarks or projects that are already members of the EOS Association, and they have an important role in all the work that we are doing in EOS. EOS has been built till now through an immense number of projects. Here you have some of them. And I think that it's the time also to go from the project to the reality for doing something that is sustainable in time. We have to learn from the work that we have done in the development of all these projects, and we have to build on top of that something that is sustainable in time, and it is not depending on the timing of the project. In this sense, we are working in the federation, in a federation approach. For this federation approach, we are putting the first steps, and the first step is this EOS EU note that, different from the previous experience, it is a procurement. It's not a common approach for the European Commission, but it's a procurement launched by the European Commission with the intention to start to build this federation and to start to show that we are that EOS is more than noise and discussion and projects, that the EOS is a reality. In this sense, the EOS EU note will try to be the top node that in which we can federate other nodes that we have to define. We are in the process to define what is the scope of these nodes. These nodes now are under discussion. There are several activities behind in order to define what is the best way to build this federation, taking into account the different layers, institutional, national, and European layers. And the EU-Node is going to be also the platform to access, for the researchers to access to the services that the EOS is going to offer to the researchers. So it has this double interface. The interface as main node for structuring the federation of the resources along Europe, and also as the user's entry to access to the services that EOS is going to provide. There is a planning for the establishment of this EU node. And just for you to know that the expectation is that we can start the testing of the EOS EU node production after summer, with the intention to have a product ready for being used in late October this year. By now, what happened is that the portal, EOS portal, has been moved to this EOS Node initial web, and there is also already available. It is going to gather all the work that has been done in the previous work in the EOS Future and previous projects. And as conclusion, just to say that EOS is a federated initiative that aims to produce the production and reuse of open data. EOS is built on needs of researchers. The researchers, I think it is important, the researchers are in the core, in the heart of EOS. So the researchers are important in the definition of the EOS, because it's for them, EOS. EOS has a tripartite governance, taking into account the communities, taking into account, of course, the Commission and the member states. And what is important is that we are going to go a step further, and this step further is to go for the production. We are now in the production scenario in 2024, thanks to the EOS EU node, and we have to work together, research infrastructure, at national level, research institutions, research performance institutions, all of us, in order to build together this EOS, that it is, has the aim to help to improve the role of Europe in the context of research, taking advantage of what we are producing and putting and giving this production, this data, this research to a higher level, with the possibility of join the efforts and the investigation and the research that we are doing in the different domains for doing a better research, new research, and making Europe bigger in the context, in the global context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maculada, for dealing with the challenge of explaining in 12 minutes all we want to know about EOS. So next, a presentation will be from Álvaro López. He's a tenured scientist in CSIC. He's the responsible of the Advanced Computing and E-Science Group at the Institute of Physics of Cantabria, IFCA, from the Hispanic Research Council. He has been working as research in the promotion of advanced computing services for science and research, especially in the computational continuum, and with developing services that have been used in pan-European infrastructure and the EOS, and also has been participating extensively in more than 20 European projects and coordinated 3 of them. So please, Álvaro, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ignacio, for the presentation. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me. Thank you for your patience with my slides. And thank you, Immaculada, for the introduction to the EOS, which is not an easy task, I would say. It is a lot of information to digest. I will here briefly introduce what is our project EA4EOS and how we are contributing to the implementation of open science and therefore to the European Open Science Cloud. In a nutshell, our project started in September 2022 and runs for 3 months. We were funded under the call that was expecting projects to deliver innovative services for the European Open Science Cloud, and therefore we focus on building services for the EOS exchange that are targeting directly researchers. Our main goal was to deliver an EOS AI platform with some advanced features like distributed federated learning, composite learning, and so on and so forth, but also focusing on providing trustworthy and robust AI systems that fulfill the FAIR principles from end to end. What we are trying to do is to deliver a toolbox for scientists to build AI models exploiting resources that come from the European Open Science Cloud. So we are building a platform, we are building a set of services, and we are building the software that powers that platform. With the aim that I have to say that our aim is not to build AI algorithms, but to provide scientists with the tools that they need to build those AI machine learning models, being able to transform them into services, and taking into account that we want to provide them with transparent access to European infrastructures, and taking into account that we want to make all the assets that are involved in an artificial intelligence application module in a machine learning model, that they are fair, that they are robust, and that they are trustworthy. How we are doing that? We are applying federated learning beyond privacy scenarios, as I will briefly explain later on, in order to profit from the distributed nature of the EOS. We are providing some tools for the monitoring of models, and we are also building a rich provenance tracking tool that will provide all the information needed to ensure that all the assets, the data, the model itself, the code, fulfill the FAIR principles. As I said, we are building a platform, and this platform is running in a distributed fashion. We are integrating different cloud providers at the European level, some of them coming from the EGI federated cloud, some of them not. We are currently running two different infrastructures. One is the EA4EOS platform that we are using to pilot our developments, and where we are supporting generic use cases through an open call. And the second one, and I have also the opportunity to explain in the afternoon, is the AI-Imagine platform that is very focused on a scientific area. We are providing scientists with transparent access to distributed resources, integrated with the EOS ecosystem, so we are able to consume data and to publish data to and from other services, not imposing any requirements, so that they are familiar with their environment. Although we are now at the top of the artificial intelligence hype, especially in the last years, our journey started some time ago. We come from the Deep Hybrid Data Cloud project, where we work on building a platform to provide transparent access to specialized resources to data scientists. From this, we evolved the platform in the EI4EOS project, where we are developing the platform, and we are exploiting this platform in a parallel project, which is called iMagine, which is building an artificial intelligence-powered platform for aquatic sciences, as I will also explain in the afternoon. This is important because we are not here in a lonely journey, and I think this is one of the most important aspects of the EOS, that it provides you with a friendly and nice collaboration environment that also opens the door to further enrichment and cross-fertilization of projects. We are collaborating with some notably other infra projects. The Imagine, it is outside the EOS realm, but it is a very good example on how we are exploiting directly our developments in EA4EOS to build a specialized platform for a scientific community. With Blue Cloud, where we are federating our both platforms so that we get access from one side to the other. The same with RACE, Siesta for exploiting federated learning capabilities for sensitive data, and Skills4EOS for FAIR and machine learning artificial intelligence definition of the FAIR aspects on this. Outside also the infra EOS realm, and an important point is collaboration with industry. We are closely collaborating with major initiatives like Flower, the federated learning framework, reference federated learning framework, with NVIDIA, or with a lot of SMEs through the EOS DIH. Overall, these are our objectives. We have the three first objectives that are mainly technical. We are building services and a platform. We are supporting researchers to deliver services based on artificial intelligence. We are in the 4th and 5th objective. These are not so technical and are focused on creating an AI community of practice on the EOSC and beyond. So what is all of this about? This is the typical example of a machine learning development application where we have some data at the left-hand side. We can have some model that we can apply to that data, for example, an image classification model, or we don't have it and we want to start from scratch. So researchers, we provide researchers with tools to either starting from an existing model or starting from scratch, develop a model on top of our resources, do the training, test, validation cycle until the accuracy is as expected. They can contribute back the model openly to the repository, ensuring that all the assets that were assembled to build that model, data, provenance, infrastructure, and even publications, fulfill the FAIR principles, and then they can serve the model and monitor it in order to build trustworthy systems. Going briefly, very briefly, in how this looks like, researchers want to build a model. We are providing them with tools they are familiar with, Visual Studio Code, Jupyter Lab running on top of our resources, integrated with the code that they want to develop. The marketplace, they can browse for models, get rich metadata about that model with provenance information, also monitor how many deployments, how many trainings they are carrying out in our platform. Deploying as a service, starting from a model, you can go with tools like, for example, the infrastructure manager, deploy a standalone service, or you can exploit serverless computing to deliver the final functionality to the users. I don't want to enter into details. I have many slides showing examples, but I want to mention that we are here. We have a stable platform at the moment, and we are just finishing the last pieces to provide the metadata, provenance metadata, experiment-centric dashboard, and so on and so forth, in order to, during the last year, move the whole platform into production. This is about our project. Now I would like to have 3-4 slides as a wrap-up, focusing what we are doing in how we are contributing to the open science and therefore to the European Open Science Cloud. And I have 2 slides for success stories and opportunities from our point of view that I will explain here. This is a disclaimer. These are opportunities that we have found in the European Open Science Cloud from our project and from my institution and research group. Therefore, it's a bit of marketing, I would say, but let me explain. When a data scientist is building a model, the first thing that they need is data, quality data, and in quantity. And sometimes it is not easy to gather that data. For example, because this has not been done properly, you have not planned when you were collecting that data that then this data will be used to build an AI model. And through the years, it was possible for us to find quality and quantity data that was curated with all the FAIR principles applied to them that allow us to validate an hypothesis. Can we, in this example, predict water quality parameters through easy-to-measure variables in the water? Our hypothesis is that it was possible, but we wanted to validate it before moving in a real research project to gather data in situ in the site that we want to monitor, do the campaigns, go to the field, get the samples, go to the laboratory, analyze them, and so on and so forth. So this, from our point of view, is a good example of why FAIR and open data, how FAIR and open data enable us to go further in research. Another example is, for example, how added value services that could be integrated into the EOS could be beneficial for data producers. And this also comes from our group. This is an example of a data augmentation algorithm that we built with people that were monitoring the roads. Monitoring the roads with a camera. There were a lot of photos that were taken in order to find asphalt distress when the there is a bump in the road, and so on. And this is very complicated because we have kilometers and kilometers of data, and if you get a video, you need to detect where a bump is or where there is a small piece of asphalt that is broken, and data was scarce. But by using generative fan diffusion models, we were able to augment that data, so we could build a more robust AI system that then we could use to the raw data, to classify it, and to create a richer data set. So this kind of services, this is not a service, this is just a research paper where we develop the methods, but these kind of services are, from my point of view, an opportunity for the EOS to provide extremely highly value for data producers. Now, moving on how we are, just my last two slides, 1 minute, very fast. How we are impacting from our point of view the Open Science and the European Open Science Cloud. Well, first of all, the most obvious one, we're providing horizontal and thematic services for the EOS, the AI for EOS platform, or for example, Imagine. And our aim is to transform or to try to transform how AI models are developed for science in the European Open Science Cloud. How? Making them more fair, robust, and trustworthy. How we are doing that? By providing scientists with tools that allow them to fulfill the FAIR principles, make this more robust and more trustworthy, like, for example, drift detection monitoring, or creating automatically the whole provenance trail of your model. And my last slide, our vision in a nutshell, as I said, we focus on delivering this platform to build AI models. We are not building those AI models. Our platform is focused on rapid development, prototyping, and training, and we do think that there is a need for large-scale training to be handed over to HPC resources via fast-track approach, and I think this is still a gap in how we could interface the EOS with Euro HPC or other HPC initiatives. We think that from the research infrastructure's point of view and larger community's point of view, the EOS is an extremely good opportunity to provide an unified approach for some common challenges like the communication towards research infrastructures, dissemination strategy, trust and security, training and skills, assuring infrastructure as a resource and sustainability. I think is a key topic here, but also the legal framework, ethical and rules of participation, and so on and so forth. All of this was provided to the Commission in our policy bid that was submitted last year, and you can read it in Senodo. So I ran out of time. Thank you for your attention. I sell our open call for use cases, and I will be happy to answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Alvaro, for the presentation. So let's move to the next presenter, Sara Di Giorgio, that she will present the achievements in the Skills for EOS project. We are moving to skills, which is also a very important topic. So Sara Di Giorgio works at GAR in the External Relations and Communication Office, and she's the coordination of this European project, Skills for EOS, which sets up the network of competence centers in Europe for training, upskilling researchers and professionals in the FAIR research and data management. She has also participated in EOS Pillar, which was one of the projects, regional projects that were aiming to coordinate activities at the creation of EOS environments in different countries. So please, Sara.
Thank you very much, Ignacio, and thank you to the organizer of this rich symposium for being here. It's a pleasure for me to present our work in the Skills for EOS project, and also I will explain our approach to training and upskilling on the competence needed for researchers and other stakeholders to make the open science the new norm. And also I will highlight in this short talk our effort to create a European network of competence centers and how this network it is aligned with the broader Horizon Europe framework contributing to the EOSC development. So the Skills for Use goal is to advance open science skills by unifying the current training landscape into a common and trusted pan-European ecosystem, closing the 3 gaps identified in the EU Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda about open science. That is the lack of open science and data expertise, the lack of a clear definition of data professional and profiles corresponding to the career path, and the fragmentation in training resources. So, a Skill for IOSC project aligns also with the new priorities identified by the SRIA that has been updated in November 2023. So now the SRIA put the focus in developing the next generation of open science and data professionals and bridging the education gap by coordinating and aligning curricula for students and researchers and building a trusted and long-lasting knowledge hub of learning materials and related topics, influencing, and this is very important, the open science policy for skills by supporting strategic leaders. So we are addressing in our project these priorities mainly through the competence centers network that will upskill researchers and professionals. So we start to align curricula thanks to the minimum viable skill set method or template, how we call it, to outline the core competencies for various roles in open science and our FAIR by design methodology that is applied to research learning material to ensure quality and consistency of all the material that we are producing for our courses. So they will be able to be reused during the time. And we are also building a support network for the lifelong learning to bridge education gap, focusing on multidisciplinary learning experiences, and we are engaging with policymakers and knowledge brokers to ensure that the national open science policy reflects the skills and the training needs of the community, and we have a special course for the honest broker and policymaker just to fill the gap between the policymaker level and the research needs. So here you can see a definition of the competence center on the left that are the key reference points within a country, region, or thematic area, and they have been recognized in various EOSC documents, including the updated SRIA, the last updated SRIA, and in the EOSC Association Board position paper on the EOSC Federation and the role of the nodes. So this concept, it's very, very close, aligns very closely to the objectives of the Skills for IOSC Competence Center that also you can find in a document that is called the Competence Center's Charter, available in Zenodo. But let's see the key concept of our project. So the main concept is the competence center and the network that offer expertise in open science and fair data practices, committed to adopting the project outcomes and participating in the Train of Trainers program. Then we have the minimum viable skill set defining the essential skills for various open science roles, and the FAIR by design methodology for learning material, that this will ensure learning materials are created with FAIR principle and they are easily reusable over the time by different communities. And the training of training programs that equips master trainer for competence center with the skills and knowledge to effectively teach open science practices, because we are developing training courses and learning pathways for researchers, civil servants, policymakers, data curators, and data stewards, and also new type of professionals across various research domains. So we are identifying now also professional networks community that supports lifelong learning and collaboration among open science practitioners, and user support network that is generally a network providing guidance and also technical assistance to users navigating the open science tools and resources. We are connecting these communities to the national competence centers of the Skills for IOSC network to create a wide network of experts and practitioners and try to make the community of people who knows the practice of open science and access the EOSC environment. All the results are, from the Skills for EOSC are obtained through a co-creation mechanism, and this is a very well-known collaborative approach to develop and refining outcomes throughout the stakeholder engagement and consultations. So very briefly, the project started in September 2022 and will end on August 2025, and so we are more or less in halfway through the journey. It's a large consortium with 46 partners from 18 countries, each being a key doors in the open science within their country or domain. And the consortium also includes 2 S3 research infrastructure, OPERAS and EPOS. So the Competence Center and network is based on a lightweight governance mechanism to align and coordinate the network nodes. Skills for EOSC provide resources for the competence centers to strengthen their activities and create, in some cases, also new competence centers. This approach enables competence centers to share best practices and to build on each other's expertise, fostering a unified vision for open science development. So now we have defined the minimum viable skill set profile method to outline the key skills and competencies linked to the open science practices, activities, and outcomes. And we have developed this minimum viable skill set profile for several roles, including civil servant, data stewards, researchers, ethic advisors, knowledge brokers, and legal experts, and also students. These minimum viable skill set profiles guide us in creating the training program that are tailored for these roles. Now we are designing learning paths and materials integrating our FAIR by design methodology to ensure that all materials are fair and easily reusable. And we are finalizing the training schedule with session beginning next October. And once the master trainers are fully trained, we will conduct pilot session for training researchers and data stewards in specific domain. And let's see the main group that we are tackling. We are developing learning path for science for policy. That's a very important and challenging task, focused on honest brokers, civil servant, and policymaker. Then we are providing training to institutions designed for undergraduate, PhD, data stewards, and professionals, including also data librarians and museum curators, and legal and ethical experts. And there is also a group of courses for research infrastructure and thematic communities, and also learning materials for professional networks to promote lifelong learning throughout peer networks. So, regarding the research infrastructure and the thematic community groups, we have the social science and humanities. We have these 4 groups: the social science and humanities throughout the collaboration of OPERAS, that is a partner of the consortium; the solid earth science partnering with EPOS, the second research infrastructure. Then we have the climate change community by connecting with the European Network for Earth System Modeling and the Center of Excellence in Simulation of Weather and Climate, and the scientific museum collection curators, thanks to the work that is conducted by Vienna Natural History Museums together in collaboration with DISCO. And these tailored learning paths aim to meet the specific requirements of each community, ensuring that the training provided is relevant and also practical. So the project, to design the train of trainers, for the identified target group, we began with the minimum viable skill set, and you can consult the group, the catalog of this minimum viable skill set on Zenodo. And from this minimum viable skill set, where we have identified the competencies, we start to define the specific learning outcomes from each group. The first train of trainers course will be for the Science for Policies, target at the policymaker and civil servant, and all the produced learning material, including guidelines and slides, will be fair, thanks to the Fair by Design methodology that make it all these resources fair, and also this it's available on Zenodo. I didn't have the time to present today. 1 minute. Okay, so here the master trainer, as I told you, are trained by the Skills for Use community, and then they go in their local competence centers, and they involve the national communities in this upskilling and learning of the open science practices. But what I want to say is to invite you to our public launch of the Network Competence Center that will be online the 25th of June. And so you are invited to join us. And then I briefly, I want to communicate that the first in-person meeting of the Competence Center Network is scheduled in occasion of the IOSC Symposium in the morning of the 21st of October. And also we have just received the approval of our proposal for the unconference that we have elaborated together with OSCARS and IOSC Focus and EOSC Euroscience Gateway, and the group about training skills that was created for the EOSC Winter School. And it's all from my side. I'm very happy to answer your questions later.
Thank you so much. So from training, we go to the community. We go to the last presentation that will be given by Giovanni Lamana, who is the coordinator of the Open Science Cluster Action for Research and Society, also known as OSCARS project. Giovanni Lamana is from the Center of National Research, CNRS in France. So he is the director of the CNRS LAAP laboratory. He has been working intensively in particle physics and astrophysics, and research instrumentation data processing methods, also being the coordinator of the data management project in the CTA Observatory and involved in the construction of the first large-size telescope in La Palma, as well as the director of the ESCAPE cluster. So please, Giovanni.
Yes. Before the countdown of my 12 minutes slot starts, let me first of all thanks the organizers and congratulates the Reach Europe project. I address also my thanks to the Spanish ministry representatives and the Spanish institutions that have organized and leading events like this. And I address also my brief presentation to, obviously, the task force chair, the S3 board chair, the European Commission, scientists, all colleagues. And now we start. So very few slides to present the OSCARS project, and then I'm confident that we will have time to discuss all together and answer the different questions. So OSCARS is the project, the first project in Horizon Europe were formally the 5 clusters of S3s, of research infrastructures that were built in 2019 are working together formally. We have very few partners, 2-3 institutions, 2-3 partners per each science clusters. The project just started the 1st January 2024 and will last 4 years. You see here the logos of the beneficiaries of the OSCARS project, therefore the OSCARS consortium, but you will see in a while the difference between the beneficiaries and the global aim of the project. Some background element, this is important. We come to OSCARS after a fruitful cooperation among the 5 science clusters. You have also a website where you find, we want to produce the legacy of what we have been doing during the H2020 grants and what we are doing now in the post-H2020 phase. we were aimed at the beginning to support the fairness of data for our S-Freeze project, and at the same time to join the EOSC policy, the EOSC concept. But we also offered at the end ourselves an opportunity and the role to uptake more largely open science open research in Europe. We also are providing and building visions for the present, for the future, and we are deploying also cooperative actions and support a global work program where all the 5 clusters, obviously, they encompass a very large fraction of sciences, but also other sciences are welcome to participate in this global work program. This can be, let's say, referred to through 3 main milestones. At the very beginning, in 2019, where we collected our short 5 position statements concerning open science data intensive research at the beginning of the adventure, and then at midterm in 2021, we decided to editing a common position statement document about our expectations on the long-term commitments of the scientific community in open science. And at that time, we started cooperating together formally by through the invitation of the pan-European e-infrastructures to take part in the EOSC Future project that was mostly dedicated to them, because at the end we had a very small participation, small part of the funding. However, our participation was definitely impactful because through the EOSC Future project, we introduced the test science projects. We participated with the e-infrastructure to support the services for the different communities, and from them, the 5 science clusters started to put in place through MOUs or collaboration agreement a long-term path to transform the ended grants in a long-term structure and collaborations. And with this, through Horizon Europe, together the 5 science clusters succeeded in proposing 2 main projects, Oscars and Diverse. The second one is about software code quality and software development, and targeting also a European virtual institute for research software, while Oscars is the project that we are going to discuss today. Finally, very recently, a couple of months ago, we produced a new position statement document that is available as well, where we present also our vision about how to participate in the deployment of the final operational architecture of the European Open Science Cloud, and more generally of the open research in Europe. So let's come back to Oscars, the objectives. So there is a limited, teeny part of the project with the pro rata limited funding to consolidation. Consolidation means starting from the key exploitable results of the 5 science classes, and in coherence with the shared work program for the future years, we decided to support some actions for more cohesion, for leveraging cross-domain approach and cooperation also with the infrastructures, on a few subjects, mainly data management, mainly the user interface. You will see in a while more in details. And then the bulk of the funding is dedicated to the open calls for cascading grants. Then what happens here is practically that the European Commission is moving to has the role of administrating this funding for research. Fantastic, we are playing this role. It's quite explorative also because compared to the past, these calls covers projects that are going to last between 12 to 24 months with the allocated budget with a minimum of 100,000 euros to 250,000 euros. Therefore, are quite consequent and are also in the scopes quite, let's say, challenging, because what we want to do with these calls is as an ultimate goal to enhance the participation of researchers in open science, in the open research, and in the EOSC. But we also want to contribute to the data space for science, research, innovation, together with the other sectoral data space in the European Strategy for Data. There is the clear also intention to support the long tail of science, because indeed the calls are for whatever are open science projects or services. And by the way, the very first call is open, is going to close very soon, in 1 week time, or next week. Then we are going to have a second one in November this year. So what are the expected results from the OSCARS project that actually are mostly inspired by the terms of the proposal through which the project was founded? So the open science practice, we said also together through the open science projects. We have heard about the competence centers. In this case, we are challenged to put in place community-based competence centers. We try to explore the different interpretation of these centers as a function of the domains, but also involving the long tail of science. We are going to focus, this is one example compared to what I said before, we are going to focus the cross-fertilization on the virtual research environments, creating the environment for the data analysis, for also the interpolation of data through the same basic bricks of this environment, whatever is the science. And then it is mentioned here a web-based scientific social network. The idea here is also based on what you have seen in the previous talks. There are many things, there are many fantastic ideas. At a certain point, already us, but even more than us, our children, the next generations, are electronic native generations. Therefore, we need, already as scientists, us, and the next generation, to be uploaded in an electronic environment. Therefore, whatever we do propose, from training to the artificial intelligence methods, data sets, software to tap in, at the end, we need the virtual contact among us and find in a unique place the way to discuss among us and to share. Only in this way we can have a long-term vision of producing new scientific results, also thanks to the contribution of our fellow citizens on top of the scientific results that are already published. Then I conclude with the expected outcomes. At the end of the project, we are challenged also to produce an economic and functional model, not only the content, of these operational competence centers that obviously in our vision are inspiring also the position of the cluster as transversal scientific nodes in the global architecture of open research in Europe. The uptake of a web-based, highly composable platform, the virtual research environment, as we said before. Stronger involvement of scientific communities in open science in the shaping of EOSC. Enhancing and further structuring the successful cross-fertilization work that is built already by the science classes. I think it is key, also compared to what was said by the European Commission in the introductory talk today. There are big historical partners, in particular in my cluster, such as CERN, ESO, but at the end, the cluster action does not reproduce exactly what historically we have faced as a European community, but at the end, we are trying to take the lessons of what is the best coming from these cooperative efforts to embrace all other research infrastructures and even building bridges among the different communities and different disciplines. Don't exclude the economy of scale. As a person also involved, as many of you, in the national context, whatever it is at the ministry level of national institutes, whatever we do also, in particular for the ES3s, whatever we do cooperatively helps our policymakers, our manager, to avoid to reproduce the funding for the same goals for the different research infrastructures. In many cases, I have CNRS everywhere. In many cases, we have CSIC in many different research infrastructure. You do expect from a scientific community that we make this kind of step towards an economy of scale approach. The science cluster respond also to this expectation of our national institutes. And then, as I said, with the example of the social network is a largely participative research ecosystem, because through the electronic environment also you do participate to provide factual, quantitative electronic components for the evaluation of the careers, for rewarding the investment of researchers in a new way to make science, not only based on scientific data analysis and production of papers, but also in committing in society and more largely in socio-economic impacts. And I will add, because it's a discussion that is taking place today closer to the European election, the new way to conceive the European Union market even for research. I think I conclude, no, before concluding. So these are the faces and the names, please take note, for the courtesy of our colleagues, that are leading the different activities. There is a work package 4 that is the one that is dealing, attached directly to me and the project management, the cascading grant calls. While for the consolidation part, one work package is really devoted to some elements, let's say some services or some approaches in which the classes are working together. One out of a few is data management services. And producing the roadmap for the community-based competence centers. There is another work package that is really focused on the virtual research environment, the work package 2, while we have a dedicated work package 3 to the testing and widening, because you have seen, and probably this is a really teeny examples with the talks today, there are plenty of projects, all important, and Oscars with the different projects that are coming through the calls, and the interface and bridging with all these projects needs a sort of dedicated work package, and this is what we had, work package 3, widening and testing, not excluding some mentoring of the open science project that will be funded by the Cascading Grant, but I'm not in a position today to say what we are going to do because the call is still open. I think it's really the end. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so I think we can take a bit of time of the coffee break. So before, opening the door, the turn for questions from the audience, I have a very short question for all of you, but please, answer it on behalf of your experience, your position. So basically, which is the role that you see for research infrastructures in the context of EOSC, around the context of the nodes and all this schema? I don't know who wants to start.
You want me to start with this?
Please.
So the role of the research infrastructures in EOSC, or
in particular in the building of EOSC.
There are two aspects. Okay, I will do briefly, then I will come back on this. Let me know, this is one question, then we have a coffee break, or we talk? Let me know, we talk, okay. So I believe there are two aspects. In the previous talks, you have seen a sort of overview about EOSC. It is, we cannot exclude that there are the services, the node services, so the participation of the research infrastructures in this is, as far as possible, to evaluate and validate that those node services are useful for scientists. And it is not a question of being polemic, or it's not a criticism, it's really a sort of cooperative work. there has been a sort of evaluation of the essential need of AI, a sort of authorization, authentication, identification infrastructure, whatever, centrally, fine, it's needed. And the research infrastructure are adopting it, and as large as possible for the economy of scale approach. And we evaluate, we validate, and as we used to do in science, also in these centers, every 6 months, we also to say how the technologies are progressing, how the needs of the users are progressing in order to evolve the service. If there is another service that is supposed to be the best service, smart, because it's produced by this key infrastructure, it's fine. But you should be open to the evaluation quantitatively, because if it serves only 10% of the research community, it is still fine, but the cost, the investment to make it permanent should be evaluated, or investigate in which way, why these services is not responding the expectations. Probably the expectations were wrongly evaluated. Here are the examples on the basic services where the RI contributes. Mm-hmm. On the other term, what I like to say, that probably I will have occasion to say it again, EOSC for us is what it was at the very beginning, was a label for European research strategy and policy of the European Union that encompasses much more than the openness and the fairness, much more of our target. It should take into account also innovation, research innovation, socio-economic impact, openness of the research infrastructure further than their scientific scope. I know that the European Commission is aligned with this vision and share this ambition. In this case, the RIs would like to go further and share such an ambition. In this case, the role of RI is participating in steering scientifically what EOSC is, what the open research is, because only in this way we guarantee that we talk about science and we also forward the expectation of our national authorities, because those national authorities have been supporting and are supporting the research infrastructures, pan-European and also world-class, with enormous investment.
Mm-hmm. Clear. Thank you, Giovanni. So, Immaculado, you want to continue giving your view as and the position in many boards of research infrastructures?
Giovanni has two views. I think that is the number of elements that make the research infrastructures a key element in the building of EOSC is infinite. I think that first, I think that the research infrastructure is one of the biggest success in Europe in the federation, in experience on federation of services and resources along the different countries in building something that is giving us an added value to what we have at national level. We have the experience through the incubator role of S3 to work together, all the member states, for building these big endeavors that are supported in a sustainable way in the long term by the member states. And we have the experience to do it, and I think it's something that we are going to need for EOSC. Mm-hmm. In this sense, it is very important the ownership that is going to help us to have this sustainable approach that we need for whatever we want to build in the future of EOSC. And this ownership is something that we know how to build in the context of the research infrastructure. Ownership from the owners, from the member states that are paying for constructing, ownership for the staff management that are working for building best and bigger research infrastructure for the service of the researchers, and the ownership of the researchers that finally are the ones that are the driving force for building the research infrastructures. We build this infrastructure because you, the researchers, need to use these tools. Mm-hmm. We have in the research infrastructure, we have already the experience in giving service to the researchers. That is something that we want to do with EOSC. EOSC just to produce the platform for giving these services to the researchers. And we know how to do it in the research infrastructure, and we are doing it for many, many years now. We have been forced to adapt our system for the access to the researchers to the remote modes, and we are going to have this afternoon a talk on this sense. How important is to establish new procedures in order to offer access to the research infrastructure in a remote, in the needs of a remote access. We identify from the beginning in the building of our research infrastructure the needs like a main element, and it's a criteria. It's a criteria that we use to decide if a research infrastructure goes or not goes for the roadmap. So we are taking into account from the beginning when we decide to build a research infrastructure what they need in the terms of needs, and how they plan to manage the data, and how they plan to organize all these aspects. So they are well embedded in all the digital aspects. And of course, they are hubs of knowledge in which we have involved researchers, we have involved the research infrastructure service providers, so they know how to offer these services. They are building services for the industry, and we try to use the research infrastructure also for pushing the economy in Europe. So I think that there are many, many, many things because the research infrastructure are a main element in the building of IOSC.
Okay, thank you very much, Imayo. So totally I'm aligned with your views. Sara, Alvaro, do you want to add? Yes?
I mean, I think that the research infrastructure could really help because they have already developed the federation approach. And I would like to stress also the social component, because on one hand we have the technical challenges, but also we need a change, a shift of culture in research in order to embrace the open science, and to, in this way, the research infrastructure already put together different stakeholders in order to communicate each other. So, for example, in Skills for IOSC, we have EPOS, that is the research infrastructure about the social earth science, and there we are really working very nicely with the civil protection level, at the national level and the European level. See, and here in this debate, we are facing a lot of challenges that needs to be filled, but already a lot of work it's already done. So, for example, trying to convene on a common language, on a common view on how to use data, trying to avoid misuse of data, guaranteeing the protection of sensible data, and also, trying to make policymakers and researchers managing solution in the case of risk management in an international way, because the challenges are not only national, but
Thank you. So
yes, I can conclude. I have to say that I agree with what has been said. I want to stress out a couple of things. One is what Giovanni already said. On the technical part, engaging with research infrastructures is key to validate the solutions. And we have a very good example from our experience with EI for EOS. We prepare a proposal with several use cases, but it is in the engagement with a larger set of communities coming from research infrastructures, thanks to the Imagine project that is exploiting our solutions, where we have actually validated that what we are doing is exploitable and can be sustainable in the future for a larger user community that otherwise we would not have been able to tackle within one single project. And I think that the EOS could be a very good forum to try to foster this kind of validation of the solutions by the broader audience that the research infrastructures can bring. And on the other hand, this leads us not to the technical part, but also to the social part. It is the community behind research infrastructures. As Immaculada said, and as Sarah, on the one hand, we have research infrastructures that know how to do things, know how to support researchers, and know how to deliver services. And this is something that EOS should learn from the experience that is already there, and we should cross-pollinate, because on the other hand, the EOS is also creating different communities that are not backed, let's say, by a large research infrastructure, this famous long tail of sciences, but not only that. So I think that this kind of convergence interaction is key to success. I mean, I think that research infrastructures must play a key role in bringing further stakeholders that they already have under their umbrella, but the EOS, the other way around, that is also true.
Yeah, just to say that, I mean, I just wanted to enhance this message, right? To make this message on a wider audience and for many people, so totally aligned. So I think that we have time for a couple of short questions from the audience. Is there anyone that want to ask? Yes.
My name is Javier de la Cueva. I work for Álvaro in Siesta project. And I wanted to make a very, very short question, which is about the infrastructure of the infrastructure. So in operating systems, we use Apple and Windows. In software code, we deposit it in GitHub. Our documents are in Google Docs and in Microsoft Office, even though they are deliverables that they are not public. In communications, we use Teams, Zoom, and Google Meet. In dissemination, we use Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Do we need to rethink the infrastructure of the infrastructure, so in order to protect European researchers' sovereignty and privacy? Thank you.
Who wants to answer?
So yes, for example, in GAR, in our organization, we use spatial BB, the big blue button, and we don't use the Zoom. We try to, and also there is a very nice tool for doing survey that it's U-Survey, and it's from the Commission, and it's free of use. So we have already some very good tools and infrastructure that could be used, but maybe they are not so well known. But yeah, I definitely would like to to avoid, the use of Americans, or as you say.
Can I probably add that? Thanks for the question. Question raises also the point that is going to influence the next projects: the sovereignty, the data protection, cybersecurity. All these things will be considered. In the list that you made that is correct, you should also mention that Zenodo is coming from our community. There are tools that are open source. We will not replace Google until someone else will deploy an effort to produce something identical. Let's also evaluate, let's take the time also to be self-referential a little bit, saying that we have been in Europe, although in a global effort, in a capacity to develop some important services in data management. We are building the data lake from the experience of particle physics, but extended to all science, the grid infrastructure. All these things came out from a global approach, not only European, but with an important component of the European communities. So these things are a little bit lower level, not clearly visible, but also the participation from the public. And then there are things that are by definition open sources, the software, and the things that we are doing in the future is providing repository catalogs of software. These things, either we are able to leverage for innovation in Europe and for the European market, or we are not at the same pace than the others, but we are not in a position to deploy the new commercial tool alternative to the US one, the USA one.
Just to add, the EU node relies I would say, mostly on European resources. Only a very small fragment is on an external, not European provider. Thank you for the question. Any other question? Yes.
Hi. I just had a real quick question, sort of in the same vein as what was just asked. But I come from, I'm an oncologist. I come from health data side of things. And I really see this as a really big problem moving forward that a lot of people just don't realize. We are generating lots and lots of data, UK Biobank, others, in which the data in and of itself is identifying. So in the US, where I come from, originally, we have HIPAA restrictions, and we have to anonymize our data, but that doesn't work for this type of data anymore. And the question is, with so much fair and open access to this type of data, how do you really protect someone's data when the data itself is identifying? I know we're working personally on some very difficult answers to that, but I'm curious as to what, at the European level, they're really doing to ensure protection of people's health data. Because really, I don't see it anywhere. And we're way past regulations. At least we're going in science. So the regulations need to catch up, and it's just not there. So I'm curious to what you guys see that.
Can I answer? So in terms of regulation, obviously we do not have answers, therefore we share your feeling, and regulation is discussed at another level, as you can figure out. But for what concerns the managing of data with the current regulations, I can tell you that at European level, and this is to my colleagues, I would say this is to anticipate one of the next probably questions, is one more example of the indirect added value of EOSC. In life science and humanity cluster, there is an action together also with other domains in a project, a European Union project, by trying to find the path to anonymization of some medical data to perform research. So this is something that is related to standards, to data services, and also to a decoupling of scientific community, scientific services, and data services, data infrastructure, in order to be able to perform open research by respecting the confidentiality or the identification of data, things that are just starting.
Work with IBM right now, pretty close. Researcher, Horizon project for, he's a cryptologist, Department of Math. He just happens to have an office next to mine. And we started talking, we started building this idea, but we were looking for additional funding opportunities to bring other people in, and we just didn't see it. We just didn't see there was any calls for it. There wasn't any real, there wasn't really any incentive, I guess, for people to do that. But it is a problem for, for people who work with, let's say, genomics data, where just a small section of that data is identifiable. And you need to be able to work with it, but at the same time, I mean, it's a troubling issue. But,
if I can briefly comment also, because recently there was another call for sensitive analytic platform, for trusted analytic platform for sensitive data, where 3 projects have been funded: EOSC Entrust, EOSC Titan, and EOSC Siesta. By chance, I'm coordinating also EOSC Siesta. I had not the opportunity to present it today. But actually, in our project, we are working on these aspects. Probably you can discuss briefly about regulations with Javier, which is our main expert here. But also we are working on studying how can we alleviate the tension between the FAIR principles and the sensitive data restrictions. This has been long discussed, as with this famous quote, as open as possible, as close as necessary, and making something fair does not mean that this is open. You can find it, you can access it if you have the rights to. This can be interoperable with other data, other solutions, other software, and this can be reproducible, but this does not mean that it is open. You can get access only if you have the rights to. Otherwise, you can track all the metadata, all the aspects, you can search for a given research experiment, whatever, but you can stop if you don't have access to it. Accessible does not mean open. Accessible means that you can access it if you have the rights to.
Yeah.
And this are the kind of things that we are working in Siesta.
And then, if I may also suggest, there is a research infrastructure that is called BBMRI, is the European Research Infrastructure for Biobanking, and they did a very good work for ethics and legal, because in Europe we have the GDPR, so they have already some regulation on how to protect sensitive data, because open science doesn't mean that everything is open, but it's open as possible and closed as necessary. So, yeah.
Okay. I think that we have to close the session. So I want to thank very much the speakers and also the people in the audience for the questions. So thank you very much.